Vexthor stood before the War Council with his head held high. His scales gleamed under the bright lights of the command chamber, and his eyes held the confidence of a warrior who had never known defeat. Around him, the greatest military minds of the Krillian Empire waited to hear his report. "The planet is called Earth," Vexthor began, his voice steady and strong. "Our scouts have completed their analysis. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They are primitive, divided, and weak." War Master Zekron leaned forward in his massive throne. His scarred face showed pleasure at these words. "Tell us more about these humans." Vexthor activated the holographic display. A blue and green planet appeared in the center of the room, rotating slowly. They have only reached their own moon. Their fastest ships use chemical propulsion. They fight among themselves constantly. Their world is split into hundreds of different factions. The council members made sounds of amusement. Some even laughed openly. It was always the same with primitive species. They never stood together until it was too late. "Their weapons?" asked General Krazith, the oldest warrior in the room. "Nuclear fission at best," Vexthor replied. "They have barely mastered splitting atoms. Their largest weapons could damage our smallest ships, perhaps, but our shields would hold easily. They have nothing that can truly threaten us." War Master Zekron smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Then we proceed as planned. The invasion begins in 3 cycles. Vexthor, you will lead the first contact team. Make them understand that resistance is futile." Vexthor saluted with pride. This would be his 47th conquest. Another world would fall to the might of the Krillian Empire. Another species would learn to bow before their superiors. It would be quick, clean, and easy. How wrong he was. 3 cycles later, the Krillian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Vexthor stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the primitive star system unfold before him. The 3rd planet from the sun was his target. 7 billion humans lived there, completely unaware that their independence was about to end. "Commander," his sensor officer called out, "we have detected a small vessel near the asteroid belt. It appears to be a mining ship." Vexthor examined the reading. The ship was tiny, barely worth noticing. It had old fusion engines and simple hull plating. "Intercept it. We will make first contact there." The Krillian vessels moved smoothly through space, their advanced engines making the human ship look like a floating piece of scrap metal. Within minutes, they had surrounded the mining vessel. "Open a communication channel," Vexthor ordered. The view screen flickered to life. A human face appeared, looking startled but not afraid. The man had dark hair and tired eyes. He wore a worn uniform with a name patch that read Morrison. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the mining vessel Frontier Spirit," the human said slowly. "I don't recognize your ship design. Are you from one of the colony stations?" Vexthor found the question amusing. These creatures had no idea that aliens even existed. "I am Commander Vexthor of the Krillian Empire. You and your crew will surrender immediately. Your planet Earth is now property of the Empire. Resistance will result in your destruction." There was a long pause. Vexthor expected panic, begging, perhaps even tears. Instead, Jake Morrison's expression turned cold and hard. "I'm going to give you one chance," the human said quietly. "Turn your ships around and leave our system. If you don't, you'll regret it." The Krillian bridge crew burst into laughter. Vexthor himself couldn't help but be amused. This primitive creature was threatening them. With what, his tiny mining ship? "Your bravery is noted," Vexthor said with false respect. "But foolish. You have 10 seconds to surrender or we will destroy your ship." Jake Morrison looked directly into the camera. His voice was calm, almost sad. "Then I guess we're doing this the hard way." "Lisa, send the message home," a female voice responded in the background. "Message sent, Captain. It'll reach Earth in about 8 minutes." "Good," Jake said. "Tell them what's coming. Tell them to be ready." Vexthor's amusement vanished. "Weapons officer, destroy that ship now." The Krillian energy weapons fired. Bright beams of concentrated plasma that could melt through starship hulls. The Frontier Spirit had no shields, no armor worth mentioning. The mining vessel exploded in a brilliant flash of light. "First contact completed," Vexthor announced. "All ships proceed to Earth, standard invasion formation." But something bothered him. The human captain had been too calm. There was no fear in his eyes, only determination. And that last message? What had they sent to Earth? The fleet moved deeper into the solar system. They passed Mars, the red planet that humans had only sent a few robots to explore. Earth appeared ahead, growing larger on the view screens. Commander? The sensor officer said, his voice uncertain. I'm detecting unusual energy signatures coming from Earth. Multiple ships are launching from the surface and from orbital stations. Vexthor studied the readings with interest. So the humans would fight after all. Good. It would make the conquest slightly more interesting. How many ships? He asked. Hundreds, Commander. They're smaller than our vessels, but there are a lot of them. The view screen showed Earth's defensive fleet assembling between the planet and the Krillian Armada. Human ships gathered in formation, their hulls marked with different flags and symbols. Americans, Russians, Chinese, Europeans, and dozens of other nations all flying together. A communication request came through. Vexthor accepted it. An older human appeared on screen wearing a dark blue uniform covered in medals. His hair was gray and his face was lined with age, but his eyes were sharp and alert. I am Admiral Ben Harper, commander of Earth's Combined Defense Fleet, the human said. You have entered our system without permission and destroyed one of our ships. This is an act of war. Leave now or we will defend ourselves. Vexthor studied the human admiral. Unlike the mining captain, this one spoke with authority and experience. But experience against what? Other humans with similar primitive technology? Admiral Harper, Vexthor said slowly, you cannot win this fight. We have conquered 47 worlds. We have fought species with technology far beyond yours. Surrender now, and your people will be treated fairly. Fight and millions will die. Ben Harper's expression didn't change. You're probably right. We probably can't win. But we're going to fight anyway. That's what humans do. Then you are fools, Vexthor replied. Maybe, the Admiral said. But we're fools who remember Jake Morrison and his crew. They bought us 8 minutes to prepare. We won't waste their sacrifice, the communication cut off. Vexthor stood quietly for a moment. There was something in the Admiral's voice, something he had heard before in the mining captain's words. These humans knew they were going to lose, yet they prepared to fight anyway. War Master Zekron is hailing us, the communications officer reported. Vexthor accepted the call. His superior's face appeared, looking eager and excited. The humans have assembled to meet us, Zekron said with satisfaction. Good. We will crush them quickly and move to the ground invasion. All ships are to engage and destroy the human fleet. Show no mercy. Understood, War Master, Vexthor replied. The order went out across the Krillian fleet. 300 warships moved forward, their weapons charging, their shields at maximum strength. They outnumbered the human fleet 3-1. They had better weapons, better shields, better everything. It should have been a massacre. In Vexthor's experience, it would be over in minutes. But as both fleets moved closer to each other, Vexthor noticed something odd. The human ships weren't trying to run. They weren't scattering or attempting to flee to different parts of the solar system. Instead, they were accelerating toward the Krillian fleet. They were charging. Commander, his tactical officer said nervously. The human ships are on a collision course. They're not slowing down. Vexthor watched the displays with growing confusion. Every species he had ever fought tried to maintain distance. They fired weapons from far away and retreated when pressed. They valued survival. But the humans were racing toward them at full speed, weapons blazing. The space between the two fleets shrank rapidly. Vexthor could see the human ships more clearly now. They were smaller than his own vessels, and their design was crude compared to Krillian engineering. Some looked like they had been built in a hurry, with mismatched parts and rough welds. All ships, open fire, Vexthor commanded. The Krillian weapons fired, filling space with deadly energy beams and plasma missiles. Human ships exploded, torn apart by weapons they had no defense against. 1, 2, 5, 10 human vessels died in the opening seconds, but the rest kept coming. They're not stopping, the tactical officer shouted. Vexthor gripped the arms of his command chair. What kind of species willingly flew into certain death? The human fleet smashed into the Krillian formation like a hammer. Small human fighters weaved between the larger Krillian ships, firing missiles at close range where the shields were weakest. Larger human vessels rammed directly into Krillian cruisers, their crews dying instantly but taking the enemy ship with them. Vexthor watched in shock as a human destroyer, its hull torn open and venting atmosphere, steered directly into one of his frigates. Both ships exploded in a massive fireball. Report, he demanded. The Krillian fleet moved into orbit around Earth. Vexthor stood on his bridge, looking down at the blue planet below. Somewhere down there, 7 billion humans waited, They had just watched their entire space fleet die protecting them. Now the real invasion would begin. All ground forces, prepare for deployment. War Master Zekron's voice came through the communications system. We will occupy all major population centers. Standard protocol. Disable their communications, destroy their weapons facilities, and secure their leadership. Vexthor watched as transport ships began descending toward Earth, landing craft by the hundreds, each carrying troops and equipment. The sky above Earth's cities filled with alien vessels. Colonel Zarthek commanded the ground forces. He was a veteran of 30 planetary invasions, and he had never failed to secure a world within days. His voice was confident as he reported from the surface. All teams are landing successfully. Human resistance is minimal. Their military bases are being secured. By tomorrow, this planet will be under complete control. But Vexthor felt uneasy. He remembered Admiral Harper's words. That's what humans do. The Admiral had known his fleet would be destroyed, yet he fought anyway. What else would humans do? The first 3 days went smoothly. Major cities fell quickly. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing. The Krillian forces moved through the streets with overwhelming power. Human armies tried to fight back, but their weapons were useless against Krillian armor and shields. Governments surrendered. Leaders were captured or went into hiding. The human communication networks were shut down. It looked like every other invasion Vexthor had witnessed, but on the 4th day everything changed. Vexthor was reviewing supply reports when Colonel Zarthek's face appeared on his screen. The ground commander looked shaken. Commander Vexthor, we have a situation. Patrol 7-4 has not reported in. They were conducting a routine sweep of the northern sector. Send another patrol to investigate, Vexthor said calmly. Equipment failed sometimes. Communications had delays. 2 hours later, Zarthek called again. This time he looked worried. The second patrol found the first one. All dead, but that's not the worst part. The bodies were arranged, set up as a warning. Vexthor felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of warning? The humans left a message written in Krillian symbols. It says, "You are not safe. We are coming." Vexthor stood up quickly. How did they know our written language?
I don't know, Commander.
But someone is teaching them. Someone who understands our military procedures. Over the next week, more patrols disappeared. Supply convoys were ambushed. Krillian soldiers stationed in occupied buildings would go to sleep and never wake up. The humans weren't fighting in open battles anymore. They were fighting in the shadows. Vexthor sent more troops to Earth. He increased patrols. He ordered his soldiers to shoot any human who looked suspicious. But the attacks continued. In New York, a woman named Kate Sanders led a resistance cell operating from the old subway tunnels beneath the city. She had been a teacher before the invasion. Now she was a fighter. Kate gathered her team in an abandoned subway station. 20 humans sat around her, their faces dirty and tired but determined. Among them was Frank Miller, a former Marine who had fought in human wars before the aliens arrived. The Krillians are setting up a command post in the old police headquarters, Kate said, pointing to a map spread on the ground. They're using it to coordinate patrols across the entire city. If we take it out, we can disrupt their operations for days. Frank studied the map carefully. Heavy security. At least 50 soldiers, maybe more. They've got automated defenses in those energy shields. I know, Kate replied. But Danny found a weakness. A young man with glasses looked up from his laptop. Danny Park was only 19 years old, but he was a genius with computers. Their shields need a constant power supply. I can hack into the city's electrical grid and create a power surge. The shields will drop for about 30 seconds. 30 seconds, Frank said thoughtfully. That might be enough. 3 nights later, Kate's team moved through the dark subway tunnels. They emerged 2 blocks from the police headquarters. The building was lit up with Krillian technology, and alien guards patrolled the perimeter. Danny worked on his laptop from a safe distance. Power surge in 3, 2, 1. The lights in the building flickered. The blue glow of the Krillian shields vanished. Frank and his fighters rushed forward, weapons ready. They had 30 seconds. Human bullets couldn't penetrate Krillian armor normally. But without shields, the armor had weak points. Frank aimed for the joints, the neck, the spots where the armor plates connected. Krillian soldiers fell. The team planted explosives throughout the building. 25 seconds. 28 seconds. Everyone out. Kate shouted. They ran back into the darkness as the shields came back online. Behind them, The building exploded in a massive fireball. The command post was destroyed. Colonel Zarthek stood in the ruins the next morning, his face twisted with rage. 50 of his soldiers were dead. Equipment worth millions was destroyed. And once again, the humans had left a message painted on a wall. This is our world. You're just visiting. The resistance spread across Earth. In Russia, human soldiers who knew how to survive in extreme cold attacked Krillian supply depots in Siberia. The aliens could handle Earth's normal temperatures, but 40 degrees below zero was beyond what they had prepared for. Entire garrisons froze to death. In the Amazon rainforest, another Krillian patrol vanished. When search teams found them weeks later, they discovered the bodies had been booby-trapped. 3 more soldiers died trying to recover them. In Tokyo, a team led by Kate Sanders infiltrated the main occupation headquarters. They had stolen Krillian uniforms and forged identity chips. Danny had hacked the security systems. They walked right through the front door. Once inside, they planted a virus in the main computer system. The virus spread through the entire Krillian network, turning their automated weapon systems against their own soldiers. Security turrets fired on Krillian troops instead of humans. Defense drones attacked their own supply ships. The chaos lasted for 3 days before Krillian engineers could purge the system. By then, hundreds more soldiers were dead. Vexthor watched the reports with growing horror. Casualties were mounting. Not just soldiers, but equipment, ships, supplies. The occupation was supposed to be the easy part. They had defeated the human military. They controlled the cities. But somehow they were losing. How are they doing this? War Master Zekron demanded during a command meeting. They have no organization. Their government surrendered. Their military is defeated. Who is coordinating these attacks? Vexthor had been studying the resistance patterns. Everyone, he said quietly. There is no central command. Every human is fighting on their own, in their own way. Teachers, children, elderly. They're all part of the resistance. Impossible, Zekron snarled. A resistance needs leadership, structure, supply lines. Not the humans, Vexthor said. They don't need orders to fight. They just fight. At night, Krillian soldiers in occupied buildings heard sounds in the walls, scratching, tapping, movement. Human resistance fighters used ventilation shafts and crawl spaces to move unseen through the buildings. They would strike at night, killing isolated soldiers, stealing equipment, and vanishing before reinforcements arrived. The psychological effect was devastating. Krillian troops became paranoid. They couldn't tell which humans were collaborators and which were resistance. Every human they passed on the street could be an enemy. Every building could be a trap. Vexthor's own unit took casualties daily. A sniper shot one of his officers from a building window. When they searched the building, they found only an elderly woman who claimed to know nothing. But the rifle was hidden in her apartment. Another soldier accepted food from a human child. He died from poisoning an hour later. The child was never found. A squad went into the sewers to search for resistance hideouts. None of them came back. The humans had flooded that section of tunnels, drowning them all. We need more troops, Colonel Zarthek told Vexthor. We're spread too thin. We need at least double our current numbers to secure this planet. But Vexthor knew the Empire couldn't send more troops. They were needed elsewhere, holding other conquered worlds. Earth was supposed to be a quick conquest, not a long occupation. Months passed. The human resistance grew stronger. They captured Krillian weapons and learned how to use them. They salvaged technology from destroyed ships and built their own devices. Danny Park taught other humans how to hack Krillian systems. Kate Sanders' tactics were copied by resistance cells across the planet, and the messages kept appearing. Painted on walls, carved into metal, left at attack sites, remember Jake Morrison. This is our home. You will leave, one way or another. Vexthor received a private communication from War Master Zekron. The War Master looked older, tired. The Council is concerned about the Earth situation. We've lost over 10,000 soldiers. Supply costs are exceeding projections. Some members are suggesting we withdraw. Withdraw? Vexthor couldn't believe what he was hearing. The Krillian Empire never withdrew. It's being discussed, Zekron said carefully. The humans aren't worth this cost. But I've convinced the Council to let me try one more approach. 6 months had passed since the invasion began. Vexthor stood in the command center of the main Krillian base, studying holographic maps of Earth. Red markers showed areas under Krillian control. Blue markers showed resistance activity. The map was covered in blue. War Master Zekron had arrived 3 weeks ago with 20,000 additional troops. He had promised the Council that Earth would be secured within a month. Now, standing beside Vexthor, he looked at the same map with growing frustration. "This is unacceptable," Zekron said through clenched teeth. "We have superior weapons, superior technology, superior numbers. How are we still fighting these primitives?" Vexthor had stopped trying to explain. His superior didn't want to hear that humans were different, that they fought with a determination that defied logic, that they turned every loss into motivation for revenge. An alert sounded across the command center. The communications officer looked up in alarm. "War Master, we're receiving a transmission." "It's coming from multiple human resistance cells simultaneously. They want to talk." Zekron's eyes narrowed. "Let them talk. I want to hear what these creatures have to say." The view screen activated. Instead of one face, dozens appeared. Men and women of different ages and backgrounds. Kate Sanders was among them. So was Frank Miller, Danny Park. Faces from resistance cells across the planet. But one face dominated the center of the screen. A woman in a military uniform, her gray hair tied back, her expression calm and confident. General Claire Thompson had been the head of Earth's military reserves. Now she commanded the unified human resistance. "War Master Zekron," Claire said. "I'm General Claire Thompson. We're contacting you today with an offer." Zekron laughed. "You're offering me terms of surrender?" "Finally, you see reason." "No," Claire replied. "We're offering you the chance to leave. Pack up your ships, leave our system, and never come back. Do this, and we'll let you go in peace." The Krillian command center erupted in angry shouts and laughter. Zekron's face turned dark with rage. "You dare make demands? You've lost! Your cities are occupied. Your military is defeated." Claire's expression didn't change. "Is that what you think? Then let me show you something." The screen split. Alongside Claire's face, new images appeared. Deep underground facilities hidden in mountains and beneath the ocean floor. Massive factories producing weapons and equipment. Training centers filled with human soldiers. "For 6 months you've been fighting our resistance," Claire said. "Small cells, guerrilla tactics, hit and run. You thought you were winning because you controlled the cities. But while you were busy occupying empty buildings, we were preparing." More images appeared. Human scientists working with captured Krillian technology. Engineers building new ships in hidden shipyards. Thousands of soldiers training with reverse-engineered alien weapons. Vexthor felt his blood run cold. While they had been fighting resistance fighters in the streets, the humans had been building an army in secret. "This is impossible," Zekron said, but his voice had lost its confidence. "Where did you get the resources? The materials?" A new face appeared on screen. An older man with graying hair and sharp eyes. "I'm Dr. Alan Chen. I used to work for our space program. When you invaded, I started studying your technology. It took me 3 months, but I figured out how your shields work. We can penetrate them now." Another face joined the screen. A young woman in a flight suit. "Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez here. Well, I'm back. I was the pilot who attacked your command ship in the first battle. You blew up my fighter, but I ejected at the last second. Spent 2 months in a hospital. Now I'm flying again, and I'm not alone. We've trained 2,000 new pilots. They're all eager to meet you." Zekron stood frozen, staring at the screen. More faces kept appearing. Soldiers who were supposed to be dead. Leaders who were supposed to be captured. Scientists, engineers, pilots, all of them alive and ready to fight. "We've been waiting for the right moment," Claire continued. "Building our strength while you wasted yours fighting ghosts in the streets. And now that moment has come. Tomorrow at dawn we attack. Every resistance cell, every hidden base, every human on this planet rises up together. Leave now or face what's coming." The transmission ended. The command center was silent. Zekron turned to his officers. "This is a bluff. They're trying to scare us." But Vexthor wasn't sure. He had learned not to underestimate humans. "War Master, perhaps we should consider—" "Silence!" Zekron roared. "I will not be frightened by primitives. Double all security. Prepare all forces for combat. If they want a war, we'll give them extinction." That night, Vexthor couldn't rest. He walked through the base, checking on his troops. The soldiers looked nervous. They had heard the transmission. They knew something was coming. At dawn, the attack began. In New York, Kate Sanders led her resistance cell out of the subway tunnels. But they weren't alone. Hundreds of fighters emerged from hidden locations throughout the city. They wore armor made from salvaged Krillian materials. They carried weapons that combined human and alien technology. The Krillian garrison opened fire, but their weapons weren't as effective as before. Human shields flickered to life, absorbing the energy blasts. Human weapons cut through Krillian defenses. The battle for New York lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Krillian garrison had been wiped out. The same scene played out across the planet. In Tokyo, London, Moscow, Beijing, hidden human forces emerged everywhere, attacking simultaneously. The Krillian occupation troops found themselves surrounded and overwhelmed. But the real battle was in space. From hidden locations across Earth, massive doors opened in mountainsides and beneath the ocean. Launch facilities that had been built in secret over 6 months. Human ships rose into the sky by the hundreds. They weren't like the ships from the first battle. These were new vessels built using lessons learned from studying Krillian technology. They had better engines, stronger shields, and weapons designed specifically to fight alien ships. Sam Brooks sat in the cockpit of his fighter, watching Earth fall away beneath him. He had been a test pilot before the invasion. Now he led a squadron of ships that mixed human and Krillian design, hybrid fighters that combined the best of both technologies. All squadrons form up. Sam's voice came over the communications channel. Remember your training. We know their tactics now. We know their weaknesses. Today we take back our sky. The human fleet rose to meet the Krillian armada in orbit. Vexthor watched from his command ship as hundreds of human vessels appeared on his sensors. His tactical officer's voice was shaking. Commander, they have capital ships. Multiple carriers, dreadnoughts. Where did they get dreadnoughts? They built them, Vexthor said quietly. Underground, in secret, while we were congratulating ourselves on defeating them. The space battle began, but this time it was different. The humans weren't charging recklessly. They weren't sacrificing themselves in suicide runs. They were fighting with skill and strategy. Sam's fighter squadron weaved through the battle, targeting Krillian weapon systems. They had studied Krillian ships for months. They knew where the shield generators were located, where the armor was weakest, which systems to target first. Human capital ships coordinated their attacks with precision. Claire Thompson commanded the fleet from a hidden base on the moon. She had learned from the first battle, studied every mistake, and created new tactics designed specifically to counter Krillian advantages. Carrier Group Alpha, focus fire on their command ship's shield generators, Claire ordered. Beta Group, sweep around their flank. Don't let them encircle our fighters. Vexthor's flagship shuddered under sustained fire. His shields were dropping faster than they could recharge. Around him, Krillian ships were taking heavy damage. War Master, we need to retreat and regroup, Vexthor said urgently, but Zekron refused to listen. Never, all ships, press the attack. We outnumber them. Not anymore, we don't, the tactical officer said. Casualties are even, Commander. We've lost 80 ships. So have they. But more human vessels keep launching from the surface. Deep beneath Earth's surface, Rachel Kim led a special forces team through ventilation shafts. They had infiltrated the largest Krillian command ship in orbit, using a captured transport. Now they moved through the ship's corridors, heading for the main reactor. Rachel had been a mountain climber before the invasion. She was used to tight spaces and dangerous situations. Her team carried experimental explosives designed by Alan Chen, specifically to penetrate Krillian hull materials. They reached the reactor room. Krillian guards opened fire, but Rachel's team was ready. They used captured alien weapons and shields. Half the team held off the guards while the others planted the charges. Charges set, Rachel said into her communicator. We're leaving. Negative, a voice responded. It was Claire Thompson. The doors are sealed. You can't get out in time. Rachel looked at her team. They all knew what this meant. They had volunteered for this mission knowing it might be one way. Then we'll make it count, Rachel said calmly. For Jake Morrison. For Admiral Harper. For Earth. She triggered the explosives. The command ship exploded from the inside. War Master Zekron died instantly, along with 3,000 Krillian soldiers. The blast was so powerful it damaged 2 nearby cruisers. Vexthor watched in horror as his superior's ship disintegrated. The human... 3 years had passed since the Krillian fleet retreated from Earth. Vexthor had hoped the nightmare was over. He had delivered his report to the Council, recommended that Earth be avoided, and tried to forget about the humans, but the humans had not forgotten about them. Vexthor was stationed at a supply outpost on the edge of Krillian territory when the first reports arrived. A mining colony had gone silent. Ships sent to investigate found nothing but debris and bodies. The colony was destroyed, but not by pirates or natural disaster. The attacking ships had been human. More reports followed over the next months. Human vessels appeared in Krillian space, attacking outposts and convoys. They moved fast, struck hard, and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. They used the same guerrilla tactics they had perfected on Earth, but now they brought those tactics to space. The Krillian Empire was confused and angry. How dare these primitives attack them? How did they even find Krillian colonies? Vexthor knew the answer. The humans had captured Krillian navigation systems and star charts. They knew where every Krillian world was located, and they were coming for revenge. Sam Brooks commanded a human strike force that operated deep in enemy territory. His fleet consisted of 20 ships, all built with the hybrid technology developed during the occupation. Fast, powerful, and crewed by humans who remembered what the Krillians had done to their world. Target identified. His tactical officer reported. Krillian supply depot lightly defended, just like the intelligence said. Sam studied the holographic display. The depot was orbiting an ice planet on the far edge of Krillian space. It supplied 6 colonies in the region. Destroying it would cause significant problems for the Empire. All ships attack formation, Sam ordered. Hit them fast and get out. We're not here to hold territory. We're here to hurt them. The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel right on top of the depot. Krillian defense platforms opened fire, but human shields held. Return fire destroyed the platforms within minutes. Landing craft launched, carrying Marines to secure the depot and steal whatever supplies they could carry. Lieutenant Commander Nick Walsh led the ground assault. His team moved through the depot with practiced efficiency. They had done this a dozen times before. Kill the guards, steal the supplies, plant the explosives, and leave. Charges set, Nick reported. We're loaded up and heading back. The human ships jumped to faster-than-light speed just as the depot exploded behind them. Another Krillian facility destroyed. Another message sent. Humans were no longer prey. Vexthor received orders to hunt down these human raiders. The council was furious. They demanded that Earth be punished for its aggression. Plans were made for another invasion, this time with overwhelming force. But Vexthor knew better. He had fought humans once. He had seen what they were capable of. Attacking Earth again would be suicide. He tried to tell the council this. He sent reports, gave presentations, showed them recordings of human tactics. But most council members had never faced humans in battle. They thought Vexthor was being cowardly. They thought the first invasion had failed because of poor planning, not because humans were genuinely dangerous. So the council prepared a new fleet. Twice the size of the first one. Better equipped. Better trained. They called it the Vengeance Fleet. General Claire Thompson stood in the war room on Earth watching the intelligence reports. Spy satellites in Krillian space had detected the fleet being assembled. She knew what it meant. They're coming back, she said to her staff, bigger and angrier than before. Kate Sanders, now a colonel in Earth's military, nodded grimly. We bloodied their nose and now they want revenge. How long do we have? 6 months, maybe 8, Claire replied. The fleet is almost ready to launch. Then we hit them first, Kate said firmly. We don't wait for them to reach Earth, we go to them. Claire smiled. It was exactly what she had been thinking. The best defense was a good offense. And humanity had learned that lesson well. Plans were made. Resources were gathered. Earth's fleet, now grown to over 1,000 ships, prepared for a deep strike into Krillian territory. But not just a raid this time, something bigger. Sam received his orders personally from General Thompson. You're going after their homeworld. Sam blinked in surprise. Their homeworld? That's insane. It'll be the most heavily defended planet in their empire. Exactly, Claire replied, which is why they won't expect us to attack it. They think we're just raiders hitting soft targets. We're going to show them what we're really capable of. The mission was called Operation Payback. 100 ships carrying humanity's best soldiers and pilots. Their target, Krillia Prime, the capital world of the Krillian Empire. Vexthor was summoned to the homeworld to help coordinate the defense of the Vengeance Fleet. As his ship approached Krillia Prime, he saw the massive fleet being assembled. 600 warships, the largest military force the Empire had gathered in decades. Impressive, isn't it? Admiral Croven said, standing beside Vexthor. This time we'll crush the humans properly. No mistakes. Vexthor said nothing. He had heard these confident words before, right before the first invasion. He wondered if anyone in the Empire truly understood what they were facing. The human fleet traveled for weeks, using captured Krillian faster-than-light technology to move through space undetected. They passed through Krillian territory, avoiding detection by staying in the empty spaces between stars. When they reached Krillia Prime, they found the Vengeance fleet still in orbit, still preparing for its departure to Earth. The timing was perfect. All ships, Claire's voice came over the communication channel. This is for Jake Morrison. This is for Admiral Harper. This is for Rachel Kim and everyone we've lost. Attack! The human fleet appeared without warning. One moment, Krillian sensors showed nothing. The next moment, 100 human warships were firing at point-blank range. The Vengeance fleet scrambled to respond. Shields came online, weapons charged, but the humans had surprise on their side. More importantly, they had 3 years of experience fighting Krillian forces. Sam's fighter squadron went after the fleet's carriers. Without carriers, the Krillian fighters couldn't launch. Without fighters, the capital ships were vulnerable. It was a tactic Claire had developed specifically for this mission. Nick Walsh commanded a special assault team with a crazy mission. They had to land on the planet itself and strike at the military command center. If they could disrupt Krillian communications, the fleet above would be unable to coordinate effectively. His team launched in stealth transports, sneaking past the orbital defenses while the space battle raged above. They landed in a remote area and began the long approach to the capital city. Vexthor watched in horror as the space battle unfolded. The Vengeance fleet outnumbered the humans 6-1, yet they were losing. Human ships moved with precision and skill. They concentrated fire on single targets, overwhelming shields and destroying ships before moving to the next target. How are they doing this? Admiral Croven shouted. We have more ships. Better weapons. They've been fighting us for 3 years, Vexthor replied quietly. They know our tactics. They know our weaknesses. We trained them by invading their world. A massive explosion lit up the space above the planet. A human dreadnought had rammed directly into one of the Krillian supercarriers, destroying both ships. The tactic was devastating and insane. No Krillian commander would ever sacrifice a capital ship like that, but humans would, because winning was more important than survival. Down on the planet, Nick's team reached the outskirts of the capital city. The command center was a massive building in the city's center, protected by layers of security and thousands of guards. This is suicide, one of his soldiers said, staring at the fortress-like structure. Probably, Nick agreed. But we're doing it anyway. For Earth, they used the confusion from the space battle above, while every Krillian's attention was turned to the sky, watching their fleet fight for survival. Nick's team slipped into the city. They moved through sewers and maintenance tunnels, getting closer to the command center. Alan Chen had developed a special weapon for this mission. An electromagnetic pulse device powerful enough to disable all electronics in a 5-kilometer radius. It would knock out the command center's defenses and communications, but it would also kill Nick's team in the process. The radiation from the device was lethal. Nick's team planted the device in the maintenance tunnels directly beneath the command center. They had 30 minutes before it detonated. Extraction team is 2 hours away, Nick's communications officer reported. We can't get out in time. Nick looked at his team. 20 men and women, all volunteers. They had known this might be a one-way mission. Then we hold position and make sure this thing goes off. No Krillian gets close enough to disarm it. For 30 minutes, Nick's team fought off Krillian security forces in the tunnels. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they held their ground. When the device detonated, it killed them all instantly, but it also destroyed the command center above and disabled every electronic system in the capital city. In orbit, the Krillian fleet suddenly lost all coordination with the ground. Their communication network collapsed. Ships couldn't talk to command, couldn't receive orders, couldn't coordinate with each other. 20 years had passed since the peace treaty was signed. Vexthor stood before a gathering of alien species, all representatives from different worlds and empires. The conference hall was massive, designed to hold delegates from 100 different civilizations. Today they had all come to hear him speak. Vexthor was old now. His scales had dulled with age and he moved more slowly than he once did. But his eyes were still sharp, and his memory was painfully clear. He remembered everything about the war with Earth, Thank you for coming. Vexthor began, his voice carrying through the hall. I know many of you are curious about humans. Some of you are considering establishing contact with Earth. Others are wondering if the stories you've heard are true. I am here to tell you that every story is true and many are not frightening enough. The hall was silent. Representatives from insectoid hive minds, gas-based cloud beings, and dozens of other species all listened carefully. Earth had become famous across the galaxy. Some called humans the warrior species. Others called them the survivors. All agreed they were dangerous. 23 years ago, the Krillian Empire was powerful. Vexthor continued. We had conquered 47 worlds. We had the strongest military in this sector of space. We were arrogant and confident. When we discovered Earth, we saw only primitives who had barely reached their own moon. We decided to conquer them. He paused, letting that sink in. Several aliens in the audience shifted uncomfortably. They knew how this story ended. I led the first contact mission. I spoke to a human named Jake Morrison, a simple mining ship captain. I ordered him to surrender. He refused and warned us to leave. We destroyed his ship. Vexthor's voice grew quieter. That was our first mistake. We thought killing one ship would frighten them. Instead, it united them. The holographic display behind Vexthor activated, showing the space battle above Earth. The first contact. The human fleet charging recklessly at the Krillian armada, ships exploding on both sides. We won that first battle, Vexthor said. We destroyed their entire fleet. But we lost 43 ships doing it. 43 ships fighting primitives with inferior technology. Because humans don't fight like other species. They don't retreat when the battle turns against them. They don't value individual survival over victory. They charge forward, and they make you pay for every inch of space. The insectoid delegate raised a claw. But you had superior numbers and technology. How did you not win? Vexthor looked at the delegate sadly. Because we thought like you. We thought numbers and technology determined victory. Humans taught us differently. The display changed, showing footage from the guerrilla war. Krillian patrols ambushed in city streets. Supply depots exploded, soldiers vanishing in the night. We occupied their cities, Vexthor explained. We controlled their territory. We thought we had won. But humans don't need formal military organization to fight. Every human became a soldier. Teachers, children, elderly people. They attacked us constantly from everywhere. We couldn't tell civilians from fighters. We couldn't hold territory without bleeding soldiers every day. He told them about Kate Sanders and her resistance, about Frank Miller's tactics, about Danny Park hacking Krillian systems and turning their own technology against them. The psychological effect was devastating, Vexthor said. My soldiers became paranoid. They couldn't sleep because they heard humans moving in the walls. They couldn't trust any human face because anyone might be a resistance fighter. We occupied Earth for 6 months and every day was a nightmare. A floating gas being spoke, its voice translated by machines. But you still controlled the planet. You could have reinforced your position. That's what War Master Zekron thought, Vexthor replied. He came with 20,000 more troops. He promised to crush the resistance. Instead, the humans crushed us. The display showed the counterattack. Human ships rising from hidden bases. The space battle where the Vengeance Fleet idea died before it could launch. Vexthor described how Rachel Kim and her team had sacrificed themselves to destroy the command ship. Humans are willing to trade their lives for victory, Vexthor said. Not in desperation, but as calculated strategy. They'll sacrifice everything if it means winning, and they learn faster than any species I've encountered. In 6 months of occupation, they went from defeated to victorious. They studied our technology, copied it, improved it, and used it against us. He told them about the retreat, about the Krillian Empire's humiliation, about how humans hadn't stopped at defending Earth but had gone on the offensive. For 3 years, human raiders attacked our territory, Vexthor said. They used our own tactics against us. Hit and run, strike from nowhere and vanish. They stole our supplies, destroyed our outposts, and made our space dangerous for our own ships. The display showed the attack on Krillia Prime, the Vengeance Fleet burning in orbit above the homeworld, the capital city going dark. They attacked our homeworld, Vexthor said, and even now, 20 years later, his voice carried disbelief. 100 human ships against 600 Krillian vessels, and they won. They destroyed our fleet, crippled our command center, and escaped before we could stop them. The humans had been spacefaring for less than a century, yet they defeated an empire that had ruled space for thousands of years. An elderly reptilian delegate spoke up. But that was 20 years ago. Surely your empire recovered? Vexthor shook his head slowly. The Krillian Empire is a shadow of what it was. We lost over 800 ships in the war with Earth, 30,000 soldiers dead, hundreds of colonies isolated or abandoned. Our economy collapsed. Our military was broken. Other species we had conquered saw our weakness and rebelled. Within 10 years of the peace treaty, the Krillian Empire had lost 30 of its conquered worlds. He looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of different species. We went to Earth seeking conquest. We found our extinction, not because humans destroyed us, but because fighting them destroyed us. That is the truth about humans. They don't need to invade your world to defeat you. Just attacking them will cost you everything. The hall was silent. Vexthor continued speaking, his voice carrying the weight of experience and regret. Let me tell you what makes humans truly terrifying. It's not their weapons or their tactics. It's not their technology or their numbers. It's their will. Humans simply refuse to accept defeat. No matter how badly they're losing, no matter how hopeless the situation, they keep fighting, and every defeat makes them stronger because they learn from it. He told them about the peace negotiations, how humans had demanded terms and gotten everything they asked for, how Earth's defense fleet now patrolled their entire star system, and no ship entered without permission. Earth is now a protected world by unanimous galactic decree, Vexthor said. Every major civilization has agreed to leave them alone, because everyone knows that attacking Earth means war, and humans are better at war than anyone expected. The display changed again, showing current images of Earth, massive shipyards in orbit, defense platforms around the moon, human colonies spreading to Mars and the outer planets. In just 20 years, humanity had transformed from a single planet species to a growing interstellar power. Their technology has advanced rapidly, Vexthor explained. They took what they learned from us and improved it. Human ships are now among the fastest in the galaxy. Their weapons are highly effective. Their shields are nearly impenetrable, and they train constantly, preparing for the next threat. He showed them images of human soldiers, training facilities on Earth and Mars, fleet exercises in the asteroid belt, humans taking warfare seriously, studying every battle they'd fought and developing new tactics. Several human names are now famous across the galaxy, Vexthor said. General Claire Thompson, who commanded the counterattack that defeated us. She's now the supreme commander of Earth's military, and she's never lost a battle. Sam Brooks, the pilot whose tactics are taught in military academies on a dozen worlds. Kate Sanders, whose guerrilla warfare manual has been translated into 40 languages. A young delegate from a newly spacefaring species spoke up nervously. Are humans aggressive? Should we be afraid of them? Vexthor considered the question carefully. Humans are not naturally aggressive. When we first contacted them, they tried diplomacy. Jake Morrison warned us to leave peacefully. Admiral Harper offered us a chance to retreat. They gave us opportunities to avoid war. We chose to attack them. He paused, then continued. But when threatened, humans become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. They don't fight for conquest or glory. They fight for survival, for their families, for their home, and that makes them unstoppable. The display showed human diplomats meeting with various alien species, trade agreements, cultural exchanges, scientific cooperation. Since the war ended, humans have established peaceful relationships with over 30 species. They're curious, creative, and generally friendly. They want to explore the galaxy and learn from other civilizations. But, Vexthor added firmly, they also remember. Every human knows about Jake Morrison and the frontier spirit. They know about Admiral Harper's sacrifice. They remember the occupation and the guerrilla war. These memories are taught to every human child. They will never forget what we did to them. He reached into his robes,